Marcus Chen didn't move. Couldn't move. His son Ethan's wails echoed off the vaulted ceiling while Manhattan's elite pretended not to stare. The waitress name tag read, Sarah was already gathering the broken glass with her bare hands, murmuring something to Ethan that Marcus couldn't hear over the roaring in his ears. "Sir, I'll handle this." Marcus's assistant Derek materialized at his elbow, phone already out. "I'll call another nanny service. The third one this month, but—" "Stop." Marcus's voice came out harder than he intended. His eyes locked on Sarah, who'd somehow gotten Ethan to sit up, still hiccuping but no longer screaming. "What did you say to him?" Sarah looked up, and Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Not because she was beautiful, though she was, in that natural, unpolished way that reminded him of before. Before the billions, before Ethan's mother died giving birth, before he'd become the man who could buy anything except the one thing his son needed. "I told him it's okay to be sad," Sarah said simply, still holding Ethan's hand, "and that broken things can be fixed." "You have no idea," Marcus started, then stopped, because Ethan was looking at Sarah like she'd hung the moon, and Marcus couldn't remember the last time his son had looked at anyone that way. Certainly not at him. "Mr. Chen," the restaurant manager appeared, sweating. "I apologize profusely for the disturbance. This employee is fired," Derek finished. "Obviously." "No." The word came out before Marcus had fully processed it. 3 heads swiveled toward him. "She's not fired. She's coming with us." Sarah blinked. "Excuse me, you're hired," Marcus heard himself say, his business brain already calculating, already strategizing. "As Ethan's nanny. Name your price." "I'm not a nanny," Sarah said slowly, standing up with Ethan's small hand still clutched in hers. "I'm a waitress, putting myself through nursing school, and your son doesn't need someone you can buy, Mr. Chen. He needs someone who actually shows up." The words landed like a slap. Around them the restaurant had gone silent again. But this time Marcus didn't care about the stares. "Then show up." He pulled out his wallet, extracted a business card. "Tomorrow, 9 a.m. My penthouse. Prove me wrong." Sarah stared at the card like it might bite her. Ethan tugged her hand. "Please," the boy whispered. "You smell like my mommy used to, like the cookies she made before." He trailed off, and something cracked in Marcus's chest. Sarah's jaw tightened. She looked at Ethan, then at Marcus, then at the card in her hand. "1 week," she said finally. "Trial basis. And I'm not doing this for your money, Mr. Chen. I'm doing it for him." She handed Ethan back to Marcus. The boy went reluctantly and walked away without another word, leaving Marcus standing there with broken glass at his feet and a business card that now felt radioactive in her pocket. Derek cleared his throat. "Sir, we don't know anything about this woman. She could be anyone. A con artist. Run a full background check," Marcus said, watching Sarah disappear through the kitchen doors. "But Derek? I think we both know she's exactly what she said she is. Someone who actually gives a damn." That night, Marcus sat in Ethan's room watching his son sleep, the boy's face finally peaceful after hours of tears. 3 nannies in 4 weeks, each more qualified than the last, each lasting less than a week before Ethan's grief-fueled tantrums drove them away. But Sarah hadn't run. Sarah had knelt in broken glass and made his son stop crying with nothing but honesty. His phone buzzed. Derek's background check, already complete because Derek was nothing if not efficient. Marcus scanned it quickly. Sarah Mitchell, 26, nursing student at Columbia, works 3 jobs, no criminal record, no family. Parents died in a car crash when she was 19. Marcus's thumb froze on the screen. Orphaned at 19, working 3 jobs to put herself through school. No wonder she'd looked at Ethan with such understanding. She knew exactly what it felt like to lose everything. "Sir." Derek's voice came through the phone. "The check came back clean, but I should note she declined 2 other job offers this week, both from wealthy families. References say she turned them down because, and I quote, she doesn't work for people who treat staff like furniture." Marcus smiled despite himself. "Good, sir. It means she meant what she said, Derek. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. we find out if I'm the kind of person she'll actually work for." He hung up before Derek could respond, his eyes back on Ethan's sleeping face. "Your mother would have liked her. Marcus whispered to the silent room. She never let me get away with anything either. Across the city, Sarah Mitchell sat in her shoebox apartment, staring at Marcus Chen's business card and wondering what the hell she'd just agreed to. Her roommate, Lisa, was practically bouncing on the couch. "Do you know how much a guy like that probably pays?" Lisa squealed. "This could change everything. You could quit your other jobs, focus on school." "I'm not doing this for the money." Sarah cut her off, but even as she said it, she knew it wasn't entirely true. The money would help. God, would it help? But that wasn't what made her say yes. It was the look in that little boy's eyes. The same hollowed-out grief she'd seen in her own mirror 6 years ago, when the police officer had knocked on her door and shattered her world with 5 words. "There's been an accident." Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Miss Mitchell." A woman's voice, crisp and professional. "This is Dr. Patricia Walsh, Ethan Chen's child psychologist. Mr. Chen provided your information. I wanted to reach out before you begin tomorrow." Sarah sat up straighter. "Is there something I should know?" A pause. "Ethan is struggling. His mother's death was traumatic, and Mr. Chen, despite his best efforts, works 18-hour days. The boy's been through 7 nannies in 6 months. Most quit because they couldn't handle the tantrums. But between you and me, Miss Mitchell, the tantrums aren't the real problem. What is? The silence. When Ethan stops crying, he stops everything. Won't eat, won't speak, won't move. It can last for days. The nannies panic, call Mr. Chen, and he throws money at the problem until someone new arrives and the cycle starts over." Dr. Walsh sighed. "I'm telling you this because I saw the security footage from tonight. You got him to smile, Miss Mitchell. In under 5 minutes. That's unprecedented." Sarah's hand tightened on the phone. "I just told him the truth." "Exactly. Which is why I'm calling. Don't quit, Miss Mitchell. No matter what happens tomorrow, no matter how hard it gets, that little boy needs someone who won't run. Can you promise me that?" Sarah looked at the business card again, at the address in Midtown that represented a world so far from hers it might as well be Mars. "I can promise I'll try." "Good enough." "Doctor," Walsh said, and hung up. Sarah didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Because somewhere between the broken glass and Ethan's desperate pleas, she'd stopped seeing a job and started seeing a little boy who reminded her of herself. Lost. Grieving. Desperately needing someone to stay. At 8:45 a.m. the next morning, she stood outside a building so tall she had to crane her neck to see the top. Security guards eyeing her like she might be lost. She probably looked it. In her best thrift store blazer and scuffed flats, clutching her nursing textbook like a shield. The penthouse elevator required a key card. A guard handed it to her wordlessly, and Sarah's stomach dropped as the elevator shot upward. 57 floors in under a minute. The doors opened directly into the penthouse, into chaos. Ethan was screaming, not crying, screaming while Marcus tried to calm him, and a woman in a designer suit stood nearby looking both sympathetic and utterly useless. "I don't want her," Ethan shrieked, pointing at the suit woman. "I want the cookie lady. You promised she'd come." Marcus's eyes found Sarah's across the room, and the relief on his face was so naked it almost hurt to see. "She's here," he said quietly. "Ethan, she's here." The boy spun around, spotted Sarah, and went completely silent. Then he ran full sprint across marble floors and crashed into her legs with enough force to nearly knock her over. "You came," he whispered against her stomach. "You really came." Sarah knelt down, meeting his red-rimmed eyes. "I promised I would, didn't I? And I keep my promises." Over Ethan's head, she saw Marcus's expression shift into something complicated, something that looked almost like hope. The suit woman cleared her throat. "Well, I can see I'm not needed. Mr. Chen, if you'll just sign the termination papers for the previous nanny." "Already done," Marcus said, not looking away from Sarah. "Thank you for coming, Jennifer. Derek will see you out." When they were alone, just Marcus, Ethan, and Sarah, in a penthouse probably worth more than her entire neighborhood, Marcus spoke first. "The rules are simple. Ethan's schedule is on the tablet. Emergency contacts, dietary restrictions, everything you need. You'll have weekends off, Health insurance starts immediately. And, stop, Sarah held up a hand, still holding Ethan with the other. Before we talk about any of that, I need to know one thing. Are you hiring me to take care of your son, or to replace the time you should be spending with him yourself? The silence that followed could have shattered glass. Marcus's jaw tightened. That's not fair. Isn't it? Because that little speech about schedules and tablets tells me everything I need to know about how this usually works. You hire someone, hand them a manual, and go back to your 18-hour days. But here's the thing, Mr. Chen, I'm not here to make your life easier. I'm here to make his better. And sometimes, that's going to mean telling you things you don't want to hear. You've been here 5 minutes, and you're already criticizing. I'm being honest. Which is what you hired me for. Remember? Someone who actually shows up. Well, I'm showing up. The question is, are you? Ethan's head swiveled between them like watching a tennis match. Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, then did something Sarah didn't expect. He laughed. Actually laughed. My late wife used to talk to me exactly like that, he said, the humor fading into something sadder. You're right. I bury myself in work because it's easier than being here and seeing how much I'm failing him. But that ends now. New rule. Miss Mitchell, you tell me when I'm screwing up, and I'll actually listen. Deal. Sarah studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Deal. But you call me Sarah, not Miss Mitchell. And rule number 2, when you're home, you're present. No phones, no emails, no billion-dollar emergencies unless someone's literally dying. Ethan needs a father, not a benefactor. Agreed. Marcus crouched down beside Ethan. What do you say, buddy? Think we can make this work? Ethan looked at Sarah with those heartbreaking eyes. Are you going to leave like the others? Not if you don't want me to. Sarah promised, and meant it. I'm pretty stubborn that way. For the first time since she'd met him, Ethan smiled, really smiled. Okay, he whispered. You can stay. Neither of them knew it yet, but in that moment, with broken promises being rebuilt and trust taking its first fragile steps, they'd just started something that would change all 3 of their lives forever. The question was whether they'd survive it. 3 days in, Sarah found Ethan sitting in his closet at 2 a.m, clutching a woman's sweater that still smelled faintly of perfume. She wore this the day I was born, he whispered when Sarah sat down beside him in the dark. Daddy keeps all her clothes locked up, but I know where he hides the key. Sarah's throat tightened. Does he know you come here? Ethan shook his head. He cries when he sees her things. I heard him once, in his room, talking to her picture. He said he was sorry for not saving her. Oh, sweetheart. Sarah pulled him close, and that's when she heard footsteps in the hallway. Marcus, still in his work clothes at 2 a.m, frozen in the doorway. Ethan, you can't. His voice cracked. Put that back. Now. No. The word came out stronger than Sarah expected. Mr. Chen, he needs this. You don't understand. Marcus stepped into the closet, and Sarah saw his hands shaking. Every time I see her things, I remember the choice I made. The doctor said we could save her or save him. And I chose, you chose your son. Sarah finished quietly. Like any parent would. Like any parent who killed his wife would. The words exploded out of Marcus like shrapnel. She begged me. In the delivery room, she begged me to save her, and I said no. What kind of monster does that make me? Ethan started sobbing. You didn't kill Mommy. The sickness did. Dr. Walsh said so. Marcus looked at his son like he'd been struck. You remember that? I remember everything. Ethan's small voice cut through the darkness. I remember you holding her hand. I remember you telling her you loved her. I remember you promising to take care of me. But you never promised to forget her, Daddy. You never promised that. The silence that followed felt sacred. Marcus sank to his knees on the closet floor, finally letting himself break in front of his son. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I've been so afraid of remembering that I made us both forget how to live. Sarah stood quietly, giving them space, but Marcus grabbed her wrist. Don't go, please. You're the first person who hasn't treated this like something we need to fix, like grief is some problem with a billion-dollar solution. Grief isn't a problem, Sarah said softly. It's proof that love existed, and it still does. The next morning, Marcus called his assistant with instructions that made Derek nearly drop his phone. Cancel everything for the next 2 weeks. Board meetings, investor calls, all of it. And Derek? Stop arguing. My son matters more than my stock price. But when Marcus walked into the kitchen expecting praise, he found Sarah teaching Ethan to make pancakes and his son was covered in flour, laughing harder than Marcus had heard in months. "Daddy, look," Sarah says, "Mommy used to make these every Sunday." Marcus went very still. "How do you know that?" Sarah met his eyes without flinching. "Because I asked Ethan what he remembered about her. And then I listened. Turns out your son has a lot of stories nobody's ever let him tell. You had no right. I had every right. You hired me to take care of him, and that includes his memories. Unless you'd rather keep pretending she never existed." The spatula in Marcus's hand clattered to the counter. "That's not what I'm doing. Isn't it? Where are her pictures, Mr. Chen? Where's her name in this house? You've erased her so completely that Ethan has to sneak into closets just to remember what she smelled like." "Stop." Marcus's voice dropped dangerously low. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Then tell me." Sarah stepped closer, fearless. "Tell me why a little boy who lost his mother has to grieve in secret because his father can't handle the truth." Ethan's whisper cut through their standoff. "Please don't fight. Please. Everyone always fights, and then they leave." Sarah immediately knelt beside him. "Hey, no, I'm not leaving. Your dad and I are just having a grown-up conversation. Sometimes grown-ups disagree, and that's okay. That's not the same as leaving." Marcus watched them, something shifting behind his eyes. "She's right, Ethan, and I'm sorry. Sarah's not going anywhere. Promise." Ethan looked at his father with devastating hope. "I promise." Marcus crouched down too, and suddenly all three of them were at eye level in the kitchen. "And I promise something else. Starting today, we remember Mommy together. No more hiding, no more secrets. Deal?" Ethan threw his arms around Marcus's neck, and over the boy's shoulder, Marcus mouthed 2 words to Sarah. "Thank you." But the peace lasted exactly 48 hours. Marcus came home early, miracle of miracles, to find Sarah in his home office, Ethan asleep on the couch, and his personal files spread across the desk. "What the hell are you doing?" His voice was ice. Sarah didn't even look up. Ethan had a nightmare about his mother. Started asking questions about how she died. I needed to know what Dr. Walsh's reports actually said before I could help him process it. "Those files are private. Those files are about your son's trauma, which is now my job." Sarah finally met his eyes. "And they're full of lies, Mr. Chen. You told Ethan his mother died from complications during birth, but these medical reports say she had cancer. Stage 4. She was dying anyway, and the pregnancy accelerated it. The delivery didn't kill her, she was already gone." Marcus's face went white. "How dare you? How dare I tell you that you've been lying to your son? That he thinks you chose him over a healthy mother when the truth is she was already dying and wanted him to live? Yeah, I dare. Because that kid is carrying guilt that isn't his to carry, and you're letting him because you're too broken to admit the truth." The slap of reality hung between them. Marcus's hands were fists at his sides, his breathing ragged. "She made me promise not to tell him," he finally said, voice raw. "Made me swear that he'd never know she was sick, that he'd never feel like he killed her. And now you're saying I should break that promise. I'm saying he already feels like he killed her. And the longer you protect him from the truth, the worse it gets. He's 5 years old and having panic attacks about being born, Marcus. That's not protection, that's poison." Marcus's legs seemed to give out. He sank into his desk chair, head in his hands. "I can't do this. I can't watch him learn that his mother chose to die so he could live. That's too much for a child." "But it's not too much for the truth." Sarah's voice gentled. "She didn't choose death, Marcus. She chose love. She chose him. And that's a gift, not a curse. But he'll never know that if you keep hiding behind your grief." Silence. Then, so quietly Sarah almost missed it. "What if I can't do it? What if I tell him and I fall apart?" "Then you fall apart," Sarah said simply. "And I'll be there to help you both back up. That's what I'm here for." Marcus looked up at her. And for the first time since they'd met, Sarah saw past the billionaire armor to the terrified man underneath. "Okay," he whispered. Okay, we tell him. Together. But before they could plan anything, Ethan's voice came from the couch, small and broken. I already know. Both adults spun around. The boy was sitting up, tears streaming down his face. I heard you. I heard everything. Mommy was sick and she died anyway, and it's all because of me. No. Marcus was across the room in seconds, gathering Ethan into his arms. No, buddy, that's not. Then why didn't you tell me? Ethan's sobs shook his whole body. Why did you lie? Marcus looked helplessly at Sarah. She came to kneel beside them both. Because your daddy loves you so much that he wanted to protect you from pain, she said gently. But sometimes, love means telling hard truths. Your mommy was very sick, Ethan. The sickness was going to take her no matter what. But when she found out she was pregnant with you, she fought harder. She lived longer. She got to hold you, even if it was just for a little while. And that's not your fault, sweetheart. That's her gift to you. Ethan looked at his father with eyes too old for his age. Did she really want me? More than anything in this world, Marcus's voice broke. She said you were her miracle. Her second chance at forever. And she was right, Ethan. You are. You're everything good that's left of her. The boy buried his face in Marcus's shoulder, and this time, when he cried, it sounded different. Not like grief swallowing him whole, but like a wound finally being cleaned. Sarah stood to give them privacy, but Ethan's hand shot out, grabbing hers. Stay, he whispered. Please stay. So she did. She stayed while Marcus told his son the truth about his mother's courage. Stayed while Ethan asked 100 questions about the woman he'd never really known. Stayed while father and son finally started to heal. And when Ethan fell asleep between them on the couch hours later, exhausted from crying and talking and remembering, Marcus looked at Sarah over his son's sleeping form. I was wrong about you, he said quietly. You're not just here for him. You're here for both of us. Sarah smiled sadly. Don't get used to it. I'm still leaving when the year's up. Nursing school. Remember. Marcus's expression flickered with something that looked dangerously like panic. But all he said was, we'll see. What neither of them knew was that Ethan wasn't actually asleep. He was listening, planning, because if Sarah was going to leave, he'd just have to make sure both his father and his new favorite person realized they needed each other too much to let her go. 5 years old and already matchmaking. His mother would have been proud. Ethan's matchmaking started small. A week later, he accidentally spilled juice on Sarah's shirt, forcing her to borrow one of his mother's old sweaters from the unlocked closet. Marcus walked into the kitchen and stopped breathing. That was hers, he said, voice strangled. Sarah froze, already pulling at the hem. I'm sorry, Ethan said it was okay. I'll take it off. Don't. Marcus crossed to her in 3 strides, fingers hovering over the soft cashmere. She wore that on our first date. I told her she looked like sunshine. His eyes met Sarah's. I was right. Ethan watched from under the table, grinning like a tiny criminal mastermind. The second attack came during Marcus's conference call. Ethan burst into the home office screaming about a spider, dragging Sarah behind him. Marcus ended the call mid-sentence to find his son pointing dramatically at the corner while Sarah tried not to laugh. There's no spider, is there? Marcus asked. Nope, Ethan beamed. But you stopped working and now we can all have lunch together. Sarah made grilled cheese. Marcus should have been angry. Instead, he laughed so hard he had to sit down. You're a menace, he told his son. I learned from the best, Ethan shot back, and the pride in Marcus's eyes was unmistakable. But the real blow came 2 weeks later, when Marcus's mother showed up unannounced. Victoria Chen swept into the penthouse like a winter storm, all designer clothes and disapproval. Her eyes landed on Sarah, who was helping Ethan with homework at the kitchen table, and her smile could have frozen hell. Marcus, darling, you didn't mention you'd hired new help. Sarah stood, extending her hand. Sarah Mitchell, ma'am. I'm Ethan's nanny. Yes, I can see that. Victoria didn't take her hand. How long has this arrangement been going on? 3 weeks, Marcus said, appearing from his office with tension written across his shoulders. Mother, what are you doing here? Checking on my grandson. I heard you'd taken time off work, quite unusual for you, and I wanted to ensure everything was all right. Her gaze swept over Sarah again. Though I'm starting to understand why. Sarah felt Ethan press against her leg. She put a protective hand on his shoulder. Everything's fine, Mrs. Chen. Ethan and I were just working on his reading. How lovely. And where did you study child development? Yale? Stanford. I'm in nursing school at Columbia, Sarah said evenly. But I've worked with children for 6 years. Victoria's laugh was razor sharp. A nursing student. How quaint. Marcus, surely you can afford someone with actual credentials. Sarah has exactly the credentials Ethan needs, Marcus said, voice hard. She treats him like a person, not a project. Yes, I noticed her wearing Catherine's clothes earlier this week. The doorman mentioned it. Tell me, dear, do you often help yourself to dead women's wardrobes? Sarah's face went white. Marcus stepped between them. That's enough. You need to leave. I need to leave? I'm trying to protect you. This girl is clearly taking advantage. The only person taking advantage here is you. Marcus's voice could have cut steel. You haven't visited Ethan in 4 months. You didn't come to his birthday, didn't call when he was sick, didn't show up when I called you crying because I didn't know how to help him. But now, the second there's someone here who actually cares about him, you suddenly remember you're his grandmother. Victoria's composure cracked. I stayed away because you asked me to. You said you needed space to grieve. I needed help. I needed my mother to tell me I wasn't failing my son every single day. But you were too busy being disappointed in me for choosing Catherine over the arranged marriage you wanted. Well, guess what? I'd choose her again. Every single time. And if you can't accept that, there's the door. The silence was deafening. Ethan's small voice broke it. Grandma, why don't you like Sarah? She's nice. She doesn't leave when I cry. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Oh, sweetheart, I don't dislike her. I worry about you. Both of you. Then stay for dinner, Sarah said quietly, surprising everyone, including herself. Let me show you that I'm not here to replace anyone. I'm just here to help. Marcus started to protest, but Sarah touched his arm. The contact sent electricity through both of them. Please, she mouthed. He relented, and dinner was the most awkward hour of Sarah's life, until Victoria asked about her parents. They died when I was 19, Sarah said, not looking up from her plate. Car accident. Drunk driver. Victoria's fork clattered down. I'm so sorry. That must have been like losing everything? Yeah, it was. Which is why I understand what Ethan's going through. Grief doesn't care about age or credentials, Mrs. Chen. It just cares about whether someone's brave enough to sit with you in the dark until you find the light again. Something in Victoria's expression softened. You love him, my grandson. It wasn't a question, but Sarah answered anyway. Yes, I do. And my son. The question hung there like a live grenade. Sarah's eyes flew to Marcus, who'd gone very still. I respect your son very much, Sarah said carefully. He's a good father who's trying his best. That's not what I asked, Mother, Marcus warned. No, Marcus. This girl is living in your home, wearing Catherine's clothes, sitting at her table, raising her son. I think I have a right to know if there's more happening here than childcare. There isn't. Sarah stood abruptly. Ethan, bath time. Say goodnight to your grandmother. She left before anyone could stop her, practically running to Ethan's bathroom. The boy followed, confused. Why is Grandma being mean? She's not being mean, sweetheart. She's being protective. That's what people do when they love you. Do you love Daddy? Sarah's hands stilled in the bathwater. What? Grandma asked if you loved him. Do you? Ethan, that's complicated. You smile different when he comes home. And he looks at you like you're the best thing since ice cream. That's not complicated. That's like the movies. From the hallway, Marcus's voice. Ethan's right. You do smile different. Sarah spun around. Marcus stood in the doorway, Victoria nowhere in sight. Your mother left. After telling me I'm an idiot if I don't tell you how I feel, he stepped into the bathroom, seemingly unaware that this was possibly the worst location for this conversation. So here it is. I'm falling for you, Sarah. Maybe already fell, and I know it's wrong and complicated and probably breaks every professional boundary in existence, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel it. Ethan splashed excitedly. I knew it. Can Sarah be my new mommy now? Ethan. No. Sarah started, but Marcus caught her hand. I'm not asking you to be his mother. I'm asking you to give us a chance to see if this is real. No pressure, no expectations. Just honesty. The same honesty you've demanded from me since day one. Sarah's heart was a war drum. I leave in 8 months. Nursing school. I know, but 8 months is better than nothing. Please, Sarah, let me try to make you want to stay. She should say no. Every logical bone in her body screamed to say no, but when she looked at Ethan's hopeful face, at Marcus's vulnerable eyes, she found herself whispering, "Okay, we'll try." Ethan cheered so loud the neighbors probably heard. Marcus smiled like she'd given him the world. And Sarah tried to ignore the voice in her head, asking what the hell she'd just agreed to. Because falling for Marcus Chen wasn't part of the plan. Neither was loving his son like her own. But plans, she was learning, had a way of changing when you stopped running from the life you actually wanted and started running toward it instead. The question was whether she'd survive the crash when it inevitably came. 3 days later, she got her answer. She was leaving the penthouse for her evening shift at the hospital when a woman stopped her in the lobby. Beautiful, polished, wearing a ring that could pay Sarah's tuition twice over. "You must be the nanny," the woman said, smile sharp as knives. "I'm Jennifer Hayes, Marcus's fiancée." The world tilted. His what? "Oh, didn't he tell you? We're getting married next spring. Family arrangement, very traditional. I'm sure he mentioned it." Jennifer's eyes glittered with malice. Or did he conveniently forget while he was